When Hannibal invaded Rome with war elephants. It's one of the wildest stories in all of history. A legendary general unleashed an army of living tanks, marching them over the treacherous Alps to strike at the very heart of the Roman Republic. These war elephants were meant to be an unstoppable force, a weapon of pure terror that would crush Roman legions and guarantee a victory for Carthage. But these colossal beasts had a fatal flaw, a secret weakness that wouldn't just cost their master the war. It would ultimately seal his army's doom. So what really happened when Hannibal took on Rome with his war elephants? Back in the 3rd century BC, the Mediterranean was a ticking time bomb. You had two titans, the Roman Republic and Carthage, locked in a bitter rivalry for dominance. Rome was a land-based powerhouse, rapidly taking over the Italian peninsula. Carthage, a naval empire from modern-day Tunisia, controlled massive trade networks and was incredibly wealthy. Their first war, the First Punic War, 264–241 BC, ended with a Roman victory. Rome gained naval dominance, leaving Carthage humiliated and heavily weakened. Now, this naval power was a huge part of Rome's defense. It made their homeland almost unreachable from the sea. On the other side, they had the Alps, an incredibly difficult mountain barrier. Rome was a patient, relentless power with disciplined legions, loyal allies, and what seemed like an endless supply of soldiers. Attacking them head-on was widely considered suicide. One Carthaginian general, Hannibal Barca, refused to accept that. He'd grown up on stories of Roman aggression and had sworn an oath to his father Hamilcar to be Rome's enemy for life. Hannibal wasn't a man who played by the rules. If the sea was closed off, he'd find another way. His plan was so audacious, so completely insane, that no Roman ever saw it coming. He wasn't going to sail to Italy. He was going to march from Spain through hostile Gaul and over the frozen peaks of the Alps, dropping into Rome's backyard when they least expected it. And he wasn't coming alone. To break the famous Roman legions, he brought a weapon of psychological shock unlike anything they had ever faced on their home turf, an army of North African war elephants. These were the ancient world's living, breathing tanks, and Hannibal was about to drive them right through Rome's front door. Hannibal's march across the Alps is still one of the most incredible military feats in history. In 218 BC, he set out with tens of thousands of soldiers and about 37 war elephants. This wasn't just a march, it was a nightmare. The army faced treacherous passes, snowstorms, avalanches, and ambushes from mountain tribes. Men and horses slipped off cliffs. Rock slides buried entire columns. Food was scarce, and the cold killed men nightly. The elephants, built for the heat of North Africa, suffered horribly. These were smaller elephants, likely the now extinct North African forest elephants, and they were not made for icy mountains. Many died from cold, starvation, or simply falling into ravines. By the time Hannibal staggered into the Po Valley in northern Italy, his army was a wreck. He had lost tens of thousands of men and nearly all of the elephants. Only a handful survived the crossing. His dream of an unstoppable elephant corps was already frozen in the Alps. Hannibal had made it, but at a staggering cost. Despite his losses, Hannibal was in Italy, and Rome was in shock. He quickly gained allies among Gallic tribes who hated Roman rule. At the Battle of Trebia in December 218 BC, the Romans got their first terrifying taste of Hannibal's elephants. The Roman commander, eager for glory, was tricked into sending his legions across the freezing Trebia River. Cold and exhausted, they stumbled straight into Hannibal's ambush, and leading the flanks were his few surviving elephants. The Roman cavalry panicked. Their horses had never faced such beasts. Trumpeting, tusks gleaming, the elephants smashed into the flanks. Infantry formations buckled under their charge. Soldiers were trampled and scattered. The elephants weren't many, but their psychological effect was devastating. Combined with Hannibal's brilliant tactics, they helped deliver a crushing victory. But war elephants came with a fatal flaw. Hannibal knew it, and the Romans quickly learned it. Elephants could be trained, but not controlled like soldiers. In the chaos of battle, if they panicked or were wounded, they might rampage back into their own lines, killing friend and foe alike. Mahouts, the handlers, carried hammers and spikes. If an elephant went berserk, their grim duty was to drive the spike into the animal's skull to kill it instantly. The Romans adapted fast. They learned elephants preferred charge you straight and avoided obstacles. So instead of forming solid shield walls, they left lanes open. When elephants charged, they ran harmlessly through, exposed to javelins from the sides. The Romans also discovered that elephants hated loud, strange noises and used war horns to spook them. For years, Hannibal devastated Italy. In 216 BC, at Cannae, he pulled off one of the greatest tactical masterpieces in history, encircling and destroying a Roman army nearly twice his size, killing or capturing 50,000 to 70,000 men in a single day. He did it without relying on elephants, proving his genius as a commander. But he could never capture Rome itself. He lacked siege equipment and reinforcements. Rome's allies, though shaken, never fully abandoned it. Rome bled Hannibal slowly, avoiding large battles and grinding him down. The final showdown came in 202 BC at Zama in North Africa. Hannibal had to defend Carthage itself. For this last gamble, he fielded a large elephant corps. Ancient sources say about 80, though modern historians think it may have been fewer. Either way, it was the biggest he had ever used. Scipio Africanus was ready. He arranged his troops in columns, leaving wide lanes open. As the elephants charged, Roman horns blared. Spooked and confused, many elephants ran straight down the lanes, where javelins rained on them. Worse, some turned back, crashing into Hannibal's own cavalry. His opening move collapsed before it began. Scipio seized the moment, defeated Hannibal, and ended the Second Punic War. Hannibal's Italian campaign lasted about 15 years. He won stunning victories, but never broke Rome's alliance system. The elephants, his terror weapon, proved unreliable. At first, they terrified Rome. Later, they became a liability. In the end, Hannibal won battles, but Rome won the war. His failure wasn't only about elephants. It was also about logistics, lack of reinforcements, and Rome's endless manpower. But Hannibal's legacy endures. He is remembered as one of the greatest commanders in history. His tactics at Cannae are still studied in military academies worldwide. Ironically, his campaign forced Rome to adapt, innovate, and become even more ruthless. Hannibal wounded the Republic, but in healing, it grew stronger. If you enjoy stories about incredible historical triumphs and devastating failures, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into the epic moments that shaped our world. Hannibal's elephants were a weapon of fear. But in the end, the true monster wasn't in his ranks. It was Rome itself, relentless and unbreakable.